Hey everyone, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This podcast is all about farmers markets. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a small farmer or a food maker selling at farmers markets, you have found just the right podcast.
I'm Kat Fields-White.
And I'm Bridget Myers. We're longtime farmers market managers, educators, and consultants. Get ready to catch up on all things farmers market pros with us. Today, we're chatting with James Grevious of Rebel Marketplace in Aurora, Colorado, about putting the community in farmers markets.
Today's episode of Tent Talk, Farmers Market Podcast, is supported by the Kitchen Door, connecting food entrepreneurs throughout the U.S. with well-organized and equipped shared-use kitchens. Find clean, licensed kitchens in your area and concentrate on food production and not on building and equipment maintenance. Get more information by clicking the Kitchen Door logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com.
Welcome back to Tent Talk, everybody. Today we are chatting with James Grevious, whose backyard garden project led to launching the hyper-local Rebel Marketplace in his own Aurora, Colorado area neighborhood. Now he's growing vegetables and also community. Welcome to Tent Talk, James.
Thank you guys for having me.
We're excited to talk to you. It sounds like you're doing some really amazing stuff, but can you just kind of give us a little personal, professional background? Tell us what you were doing before you found your way into growing food and operating a market.
Yeah, so everything I was doing prior to this has absolutely nothing to do with food or farmers markets. I'm a 17-year Air Force veteran, so I'm a mechanic by trade. So I've been working on helicopters and F-16s for the past 17 years. And before that, so in between that, I was an HVAC tech. I went to college. I have a business finance degree. So I have a wide range of things I was doing prior to this. But basically, yeah, I came back from an assignment in 2015. And coming home is when we first kind of get started in just gardening so I can reconnect with my kids and et cetera, et cetera. So that kind of laid the catalyst to where we're at now. But that was, 8 years in the making to kind of get to that point.
Wow. I think every time we talk to somebody who's in the farmers market space or farming, it's always like it started way over here in this like opposite of farmers market space. And somehow they made their way here. So this is just a place for everybody.
Yeah, it's like a refugee place.
Yeah.
It's where we go. We don't want to stress out anymore to get more stress, I guess. I don't know.
This is right. That's right. It's where everyone lands it's our happy place. Come
That's
here
right.
to be happy and have a great job. So was there a particular motivation or inspiration to start the Urban Farm Project? Maybe give us a little background on how that got started and how you found yourself specifically doing that.
Yeah, no. So it really started in 2015, coming back from that assignment in South Korea. And when you get back, you have kind of like some downtime. You have about a month or two to get reacquainted with the rest of the world, I guess, if you want to put it. But so I was looking at my kids. They were young at the time. We were just trying to find activities for them to do. But they were too young to do like the typical dude stuff, like, change tires, like change oil. So we just started growing food. It's like, let's just do a garden. So that kind of, rose from that. We did my nephews and a few other neighborhood kids that kind of do that project. And we did that for about 3 years, and it kind of evolved from there. So as they got older, we just started teaching business principles, and that's kind of how we went into the market.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
So you were teaching the kids the business of growing and how you would sell the food, how you'd price it, like a lemonade stand on steroids kind of thing?
Yeah, that was later down the road. So initially it was lemonade on steroids. But yeah, initially it was basically just teaching the kids how to grow food. Just on every other weekends, they would come by and we would just eat vegetables and plant food, things like that, just activities. But as they got older, we were like, all right, we have more space. Let's actually build the farm out and then sell our produce. And that's kind of the evolution of the market kind of came about.
So when you got to the point where you really wanted to sell on a larger scale, why start a market instead of joining an existing market?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of audacity and ignorance and a lot of maybe some hubris tossed in there. I don't know. But yeah, mainly it was, I would say the Nextdoor app kind of sparked that confidence in us. So we were just going to do a basic, garage, sale style lemonade stand, like you put it. And then we went on to Nextdoor and we just kind of asked the community, said, hey, we're thinking about selling produce, starting a market out here. And it kind of blew up from there. So there was a lot of feedback from the Nextdoor app for us to kind of put this market up. And we just I got inspiration from it and we just kind of rolled with it. So that's pretty much what spawned it with the Nextdoor app.
So you got positive
Wow.
reinforcement from your Nextdoor app. That is not always the experience we have had with Nextdoor, honestly.
I will tell you, it is no longer that same experience.
Oh, it's the good old days on Nextdoor. Okay, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was, good old 2020 days, but now it is not very friendly environment.
And this isn't advice. This isn't business advice here. This is just reminiscing about the
Yeah,
past that
yeah,
worked.
absolutely.
Oh my gosh. So tell us about your market. Tell us, where you started it and what you were doing there when you guys first got started.
Yeah, so we started in Aurora. It's at Del Mar Park. Basically, it's an area where there's not a whole lot of farmers markets, a lot of urban agriculture is not really happening, that type of thing. Where we're at right now is not necessarily classified as a food desert, but it's very close to a lot of food deserts. We're not very far from it. So we basically just got started out just to sell our produce and kind of bring community together and really aggregate the resources that we had, I say in 6 mile radius, right, of where the market is at. So it really was the intent of rebelling, I would say. That's where the word comes from a lot of times, just rebelling from the status quo. Because it's a farmer's market, we wanted to make sure that we were able to supply our own produce in the neighborhood. So we didn't want to necessarily call farmers from the western slope of Colorado to come and truck the food in. We wanted to see if we can aggregate our own growing production capacity and bring it to the market.
Wow. So is it all just hyper local, like really neighborhood farmers that are at your market? You don't have any other farmers from outside the area?
No, yeah. So mainly it's all urban agriculture, so urban farming type backyard farmers. So we have right now about six. So we make enough to kind of represent maybe one large farmer that comes into the area, but it's very local garden produce, which sometimes is a little bit different from the traditional farmers also. So we can kind of specialize on crops. So you'll see some things that necessarily you won't see that a larger scale farmer will produce. But at the same time, we suffer because we don't always have the scale on the volume that the bigger farmers. So there's a trade off there for sure.
This is really
Yeah.
fascinating to me because we've had conversations, I think actually at our conference a year or two ago when it was virtual, about the idea that having 100-mile limit that can limit folks sometimes because especially the farmers of color that didn't have the money to have the land closer to the cities earlier. And so they've gone to kind of outlying areas to get more affordable land, that it was more equitable to stretch your limits and make it a 200-mile market or something like that. But this is a really interesting, completely opposite way to make it equitable by giving those small urban farmers really close to you a way in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because you gotta look at it. I have some other projects, so it kind of the market ties into different other philosophies and other food things that I'm working on. Is we won't get into that in this podcast, of course. But if you think about like the pandemic and things, obviously distance is an issue, right? So especially with higher gas prices, inflation, all of those things. Now, even now our farmers that are further out, our prices are rising because input costs are rising, et cetera, et cetera. So kind of going local and having a place where we don't have to travel that far and we can kind of help support those local farmers that don't have all those overheads and things like that. We're hoping to be able to bring lower cost produce, those type of things into the community. So it's a philosophical economic kind of debate that I'm dealing with, but that's kind of the idea of why we're doing it that way.
Well, and of course, you're really cramping down that carbon footprint too, which is great. I mean, the farmers that are coming from 50 miles away, you're talking about a lot of fuel and pollution from the methane and stuff from driving. It's great that getting it that local is really a good climate change approach.
Yeah. And then again, like, God forbid we run into another pandemic, when everything's closed down, it's like this market can now convert itself into a hyper-local food distribution outlet, right? Where we actually intentionally developed and incubated urban farmers.
Yeah, that's amazing. So tell us what Rebel Marketplace looks like right now. Is it year-round? Is it seasonal? You have to let our listeners know what days and times, and then maybe how many vendors you have there on an average Saturday.
Yeah, so right now what it looks like, so we're going into our 4th year, and this is kind of the year we kind of expanded and grew it. So we're just a seasonal market. We are just operating on the 1st and 3rd Saturdays of every month. And then again, that's a limitation with our growing capacity because we're backyard farmers. As of now, we've grown and we average about 30 vendors at the market. And before the prior markets, we were at about 15 to 20. So we expanded in that aspect. And yeah, so that's what it kind of looks like as of now, if that answers your question.
Are you out of space? I noticed that your online application is closed. You're not taking applications now. You don't have enough room to expand, or are you just feeling like the customer count doesn't justify splitting the sales between more farmers and vendors, or what's your theory on that?
Yeah, all of the above. Plus, this at the same time is we close it because it does take a lot of time to process new vendors, all that stuff throughout the season. So we do have our good vendors that are there, and I do just take drop-ins, right? So people reach out and via social media or through the website. I just take drop-ins and say if I have space available, I just email them and say, hey, come on. And those are usually free at charge or very discounted. Mainly, I just don't want to process all that stuff and send invoices and whatnot. So
All right, keep it simple.
So, but yeah, I think the part of the growing pain too is the people count. So I'm really trying to try new things to obviously program this new market, program this area that's traditionally underserved in these markets. So trying not adding a whole lot of new vendors where we can't support it with the customers is definitely an area of consideration.
Yeah, that's always kind of a teeter-totter thing we say, especially when we're starting a new market. That first couple of years is always, you want more vendors because that increases critical mass, tends to bring more shoppers, but you've got to kind of keep balancing that so you're not adding vendors faster than you're starting shoppers. Otherwise, then the vendors are thriving. And then as you have more shoppers, you don't want people running out of things all day. So you want shoppers to be able to shop at the end of the day, just like they did at the beginning. So then it's, add a couple more vendors. But that teeter-tottering through those first few years can be really tricky.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
So when you say you don't want to deal with processing applications and invoicing and that kind of stuff, who else do you have on your team? Who's doing this with you?
Yeah, no, I'm working on it. So I do have a market manager that helps me out during the market days, right? So I have enough. Obviously, you guys all know. So markets, the margins are not very big. We're not getting rich doing this work. This is definitely a labor of love for sure. So we're definitely working on getting our sponsorships, et cetera, so I can expand the salary base to bring in more folks to kind of help do these things such as processing, applications, et cetera. So as of now, it's mostly just me, a few people that volunteer, my mom that helps out during the market, but mainly all of this is during market days, and I do most of the background work and admin work and all that stuff, like traditional, like all entrepreneurs are doing out here.
Shout out to moms and kids who volunteer.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Gotta love that. So was it pretty smooth when you decided to open the marketplace? So you're not really in a business district, right? You're in a neighborhood and in a park?
No, yeah, we're at a park. So we actually, shout out to Aurora, and I know they were doing great, but as part of the story, they actually denied us our first application because they were saying that there was issues with the park. But I really wanted to be at that park because it's a historical park. A lot of people grew up in this neighborhood that no longer here and remember that park. And it's an area I live right down the street for. So it's very important to me to actually, develop and make change in the area that I live in and raise my children in. But yeah, they eventually they denied it. So I had to go to the city and sit down with all of them, lay out the plan and reassure them that this is going to be a good thing for the community. And ever since then, the city of Aurora has been very friendly and very cooperative and welcoming of Rebel Marketplace for sure. So they've been a great partner going forward. So to answer your question before, it was not easy, but it's been very smooth sailing to deal with the city and to actually stand this up. It's just the business piece that gets difficult.
Oh, that's good.
At times.
So was that all you as well, or did you have supporters or local businesses or anybody that kind of supported that effort?
No, it was I mean, again, I got next door and people cheering from social media, that kind of thing. But for the most part, it was just me just going out there being me.
Good for you. Yeah. And it sounds like Aurora's, deals on a person-to-person basis, so you could actually talk to somebody as opposed to them just pointing you back towards the rules, right?
Yeah, no, yeah. Aurora is great. It's a weird city for sure, but I enjoy working with them. I have no complaints whatsoever.
Cool. So did you have a lot of interest from vendors and teeny tiny micro farmers and things right off the bat, or did you have to kind of get out there and hunt people down to join?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. So as far as the food goes, that was a misjudgment 100% on my part. I thought there would be a lot more urban farmers and gardeners that would want to join, and that was there. So that was a miscalculation on demographics and business planning and all that stuff. But as far as vendors goes, the first year we just had friends and family. We only had like 7 vendors, and it was during a pandemic, right? So we were all social distance and all that stuff. But it was great. It was a great year. And then year over year, we start to grow and more vendors are being, interested. So now it's like we're kind of getting a lot more interest. But we also had to take a step back. And I did create my nonprofit, which is Urban Symbiosis, due to the fact that there was not a lot of food production in the neighborhood. So that was a correction to actually start to incubate businesses and urban farmers to actually stock the farmers market in the area.
Yeah, amazing. So does Urban Symbiosis, do they work to teach people to farm or teach people to produce food or teach people to, create small food businesses?
Yeah, that's exactly what we are. So we are an urban farm incubator, really focused on the neighborhood here in Aurora, so that we can get farms like Rebels in the Garden, like myself, backyard farmers into production, so that way we can, make some side. We're not getting rich, of course, but this is some side money for the family and a net positive to bring produce into the community. So that's kind of the objective of that.
That's amazing. And so how, at this point, how structured is that training program? Do you have sort of a formula for how you identify somebody that wants to get into it and sort of a step by step for them to learn to farm?
Yeah, so this year, again, just like everything, we just get so excited about the project. We just want to get into it. So the first year I was like, yeah, let's build these farms and that was an ultimate failure, right? Which is fine because, urban farming, growing food, this type of work takes special people, like a weird group of people, right? That want to do this for no money at all. So we're revamping, especially this year. So we're going to kind of take people through baby steps. So I'm working with a few other organizations that can help people kind of mature through the process. So it's really a 4-year program, ideally, to where we just introduce urban farming, gardening principles, give them some offshoots, and then start them the following year if they want to. And that's where Urban Symbiosis comes in, where we can give tools and soil and training and then a market to sell their produce. And year over year, they kind of develop their farm out to where they're kind of full and healthy. Is kind of the plan.
Nice. And is the ultimate goal that they do this as a way to support their families, or is it designed to just develop a good, strong side hustle kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm working on, ideally, I would like to have somebody support their family, but the economics, I'm really working with the economics to see how that's feasible to keep prices low and be able to support yourself. So anybody that's in the food business knows that's a very difficult kind of question. And what I'm finding out, it needs to be subsidized at some level. So that is where kind of we're dealing with that. So to answer your question is we're not at, providing a full-time income for a family. We're really just trying to focus on, can I subsidize your income, right? With about a $10,000 to $20,000 seasonal income is kind of the target. Mainly now we're going after like teachers and say high school graduates 18 to 20, right? Where that money can help bridge gaps between things. So that's kind of where we're at right now to try to figure out what's the best model and how to approach it.
Yeah, really smart. So it sounds like you're exploring a lot of this kind of political, philosophical things that we all do. I mean, how are you finding the balance between when you say you want to keep the food prices low, but of course you want to provide income to these urban farmers? Where are you finding the balance between entrepreneurship and capitalism in balance with community and cooperation?
Yeah, I'm finding it's just a lot of questions, a lot of collaborations, a lot of really discussion, and a lot of beating your head against the wall is really what I'm finding, right? It's like, what's the Becksmiths? But I'm kind of developing I'm a farmer and I study soil and how things work. And I'm kind of tossed around this idea. I know everybody talks about people, planet, profits, the triple bottom line, which is kind of the same principle. But if you look at any plant that like photosynthesizes, right, it still operates in its own self-interest. It doesn't care about any other plant, right? But at the same time, when it takes in its carbon, it only uses 30% of that carbon. So it doesn't hoard it, doesn't do whatever, right? And it dumps the rest into the soil. So for example, is we can still be capitalists, we can still operate in our own self-interest, but if we remove that greed piece, that storing up of I just need to have this scarcity mindset, and I can release excess profits and et cetera into the community, we all can benefit and kind of grow together and be healthy. So that's kind of the model I'm toying around with, and how does that can manifest itself in the real world. But that's what I'm chewing on right now.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I love how you couch it in terms of plants. That's a great way to explain it to people in our group. Are you working with other organizations in your local food system that may have, at least some similar sort of approaches and philosophies?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm working with, I'm a part of the steering committee, Food Justice Northwest Aurora. So it's just kind of a conglomerate of different organizations, community gardens, day labor centers, policymakers, things like that, to try to program this area, because the area we are in does have, I believe, 6 food deserts. It's one of the most diverse neighborhoods in the country. We have a lot of refugees and a lot of immigrants coming into this area and a lot of displaced families. So this is definitely a high needs area, and we're working together with them to program this area to be a urban farming agricultural hub. So yeah, definitely one of them for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know that in some areas across the US, there are actually regulations against growing food in urban areas. You're probably familiar with Ron in LA and stuff. And do you have that? Are you running up against that and needing to change those kind of policies, or is it pretty open in Aurora?
It's pretty, as of right now, it's pretty open in Aurora. And we just sat on a state legislation committee, or however it's called. And we did get HOA rules to allow us to grow food in the front yard. So it's now a state law. It will be signed in state law. I think it already did, to allow people within reason, of course, to start growing in their front yard. So it's kind of reverse of the Ron Finley thing. And Ron Finley is one of the major reasons why I did get into urban farming, because this is his style, his attitude, what he was going through. It's like right up my alley.
Yeah, he's incredible.
Yeah. So no, as far as that goes, no. But if it does, I really do welcome that fight, to be quite honest with you. It'd be a righteous cause 100%, because I have a mortgage on my house. I have every right to be able to provide subsistence and have sovereignty over that land that is underneath my house. So anybody who wants to come and tell me to rip out this yard, I'm definitely going on a war path, and we'll have some issues for sure.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, we need more people fighting that fight, because it's crazy and silly and obviously affected by some lobbyists that are trying to control agriculture, and they're putting a fight into it behind the scenes. We need to stay alert to that. Sounds like you're doing a good job of that. Do you know Beverly Grant at Mobetta Green? I know she's in a different part of Colorado, pretty close to where you are, I think.
Yeah. Beverly Grant is the matriarch of urban agriculture out here in Denver, Colorado. So yeah, we do a lot of work with Beverly, and we're, like you said, we're working on some collaborative efforts to kind of build a schoolhouse, this ties in before, to actually start building more Black and brown farmers into the system, so that we can participate in the urban agriculture economy, which I believe is going to be growing and expanding here pretty soon.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's I mean, that's no farmers markets. So it's to all of our benefit to really figure out some ways to promote growing, especially hyper local small farmers, and keep them going, as we see so many people retiring from that. So in addition to building farmers, though, I think you do a lot to build other kinds of small businesses, food makers and such. I noticed that one of your community partners is the Rocky Mountain Microfinance Institute.
Mm-hmm.
Did they help you get started, and are you working with them to help other businesses in your area get started?
Yeah, both. I went through their program just to kind of refine Rebel Marketplace, and to kind of just lock in with the community, get some mentorship, etc. So they're a great program, and they're really focused on businesses of color, and getting them, supported and get them funded and things like that. So it is a great organization. And we did some collaborations this year to help, obviously, the market, to sponsor them and sponsor the market, and then bring some of the entrepreneurs to their program into the farmers market at no cost. So yeah, definitely, they helped me through their program. We're just trying to expand that out to assist other entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've got the answer to a lot of the, especially startup kind of farmers markets that we see, or very small farmers markets that are wondering, how do I find vendors? Well, you create them. You create vendors, you create farmers by helping people get into new businesses and learning to support themselves. And it sounds like you're doing an amazing job of that. What's your community's reaction been overall? So it sounds like you took some time to really develop some vendors, started with not too many vendors. How about shoppers? Were the shoppers responsive right off the bat, or has it taken time to build that? And what kind of things do you do to get more shoppers to your market?
Yeah, that's the secret sauce right now. So that's where I'm kind of I think most market managers, I mean, I don't know, I can't speak for everybody. I know there's a lot of really good, successful markets, but I think we have a really good customer count. We have a lot of great repeat customers, a lot of folks that really love our brand and love what we do. So the folks that do show up, we get a lot of love. Hey, it's very hospitable. We kind of treat people with respect. We know people like first names sometimes. Hey, how you doing? I'm seeing people's families grow up. They're bringing babies, having babies. It's really beautiful. However, right, there's always that business side of the house, right? We do need more customer count. So we're trying to figure out how to kind of spread the word. We're a new market, of course. We're in an area that is underserved that a lot of people don't even want to go to, right? So it's a very unique situation that we're in, but I would love to have about 100 to 200 more folks. I think right now that would make me relax a little bit, but yeah, we're looking at trying to increase that just a little bit more, so that way all the vendors are at least happy that there's traffic, that we don't have these dead low periods throughout the day. That's kind of where we're at right now with the customer count.
I know you mentioned that your vendors and farmers typically come from like a 6-mile radius. Is that Is that where you're drawing shoppers from as well? Or do you have like destination shoppers that come from a little bit farther?
Mostly, no, I don't think we have a whole lot of destination shoppers. It's mostly the Denver metro area. So they're coming from Denver and Aurora and kind of the surrounding community. So we are, and that's on purpose. So there's 40,000 people in Aurora, just where we live at right now, right? So it's just more of just really trying to market it and trying to figure out avenues so people can be aware that we exist. Because, all we need is 1% of that 40,000 and we're good.
Yeah.
People in this area to really kind of make this market thrive. It's just trying to figure out how to get them aware that we exist.
Yeah, we've seen some really interesting programs for that. I know we just talked to another group that's working on ways to find sponsors that will provide market money to neighbors of a growing market. And that way, they originally said, oh, we're going to give this money to the farmers to pay their space rent. But space rent is not the biggest expense for a farmer in doing a farmer's market by any means. But taking that same money and giving it to the shoppers in the form of market money, that gets them out to the market. It gets them building the habit of shopping at the market. And of course, it puts that money in the farmers and vendors' pockets. So that can be a nice way to do it. So in your neighborhood, which sounds like maybe it's somewhat of a struggling neighborhood, low income demographic, that kind of thing. We've had a lot of conversation lately. Sadrine Jalal, I don't know if you follow her. She worked on the Farmers Market Anti-Racist Toolkit. And she and I did a presentation recently at a conference on the question was, are farmers markets gentrifiers or generators? And of course, for most of us, the answer is yes, they are both. So what do you find in your neighborhood? When sometimes people hear farmers market and they go, oh, they're gentrifying, that means those kind of people are going to come in. Farmers market people, heaven forbid, that's going to ruin the neighborhood. Do you get any of that in your area? Do you have people that are concerned? Have you gotten any, it sounds like you've gotten overall a positive response, even on what can be a negative place like next door. What's the overall response? Do you have any negative pushback or mostly positive?
I haven't got any gentrifier vibes because I am very much the reason why we're here. We're very much anti-gentrification, right here on the front lines in the trenches, if you will, butted right against gentrification for sure. Even in my office right now, there's a competing market that's literally right up the street. That's kind of that model you're talking about, the gentrification type style. No, I think farmers markets are a function and a result of gentrification, right? So I think it's one of those, you get the joggers and the dog walkers and then the higher rents and then there comes the breweries and then comes the markets, right?
Yep. We're considered one of those canaries in that coal mine, right?
So that's kind of one of those things. But I've also I've traveled over 30 countries and markets are they're part of human existence, right? And so I've gone to, Taiwan, for example, which was like a huge market, and it's just everybody in the community is just transacting. I think the difference, though, is just the products that are there, the music that's being played, the demographics, the kind of vibe that market has can be seen as the gentrifier, right? So if you're cutting into a neighborhood so for example, my neighborhood here where I'm sitting at right now, the social economics is $40,000 is what the annual income brings in. Literally one street over is $150,000, right? So the market is geared towards, of course, the $150,000, but the $40,000 folks can't participate because nothing there they can afford. The music they don't vibe with, the folks they don't vibe with, that kind of thing. So it's just all on who your demographic is and who you're serving is if you're going to be determined if you're a gentrifier or not, in my opinion.
Yeah, just knowing your community and playing to that. We've gotten over the years a lot more conscious that it's important to be a farmer's market, but maybe it's even more important to be a community market and really understand who your folks are, who the legacy residents are, even if you're coming into a new neighborhood that's kind of shifting, to make sure that you lock into those folks that have been there for a long time and fill their needs. So, I think there's an awareness that's changing. So maybe we can shift a little bit so those divides aren't quite as hardcore. So you mentioned Ron Finley. Who else inspires you and who are you hoping to inspire?
I have a lot of, actually, I can't remember saying her name correctly. Babanda Shiva? She's ring a bell to you guys? I think I'm butchering her name completely, but she's like a seed advocate. She's like a pro Indian, like country India farmer advocate. So she's just the way she speaks and how she just approaches, authority and systems and things like that is just very inspiring to me. And again, Ron Finley. So again, I'm a rebel. I'm a rebellious individual. So anytime anybody is like speaking truth to power and kind of really standing firm is very inspiring to me for sure. Is how far as that one goes.
Awesome. And you're inspiring a lot of folks where you are, it sounds like.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Who am
Yeah,
I?
who are you
Who I
trying to
want to
inspire?
inspire? Yeah, no, I just want people to really take growing food in their community seriously. I see some things in my viewpoint that's not going to be so favorable for my children. So I really just want to kind of leave and plant some seeds, point intended, for other folks to kind of take on the mantle when I'm gone, right? To actually, stay sovereign, to grow in ground, to grow for community, those sorts of things. So that's wherever that is, I don't know, but that's kind of my intent and hope.
Hopeful for us too that we have people like you working at it.
Sounds like you're working on making very meaningful change and doing the work to get that done. I'm definitely going to take that photosynthesis analogy and print that on the back of a shirt and wear that around my market. I love it. So what is next for Rebel Farmers Market? Like, do you have anything exciting coming up? Do you guys do anything special events coming up or anything like that through the end of the year?
Yeah, so that's kind of the second half that I've been working on to try to get more traffic in, right? So last market, we just did a book signing for two Black authors that were publishing their books. We did the back to school market, that kind of thing. So to kind of bring community together. So each market, we're trying to have a special guest. So going up to this one, we're bringing in Double Up Food Bucks program to obviously promote the program. This is our first year that we're offering SNAP, EBT, and Double Up Bucks. So we're running that program with some yoga and cooking demonstration, those kind of programs we kind of put in. And then we're doing a health market in September. And then I haven't figured out, we got two more markets in between there that I still have to figure out how to program. And then, of course, our last market in the season, we do a big, thank God this is kind of over party. We're going into the fall, party a little bit kind of market. So that's our fall harvest festival. So that's kind of, I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Nice.
I like that. I like that orientation. Like, thank God it's over. I mean, we're going to miss you guys and see you next time, but oh my gosh, let's get that break in there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
Let's have one last thing out before we go to the winter, and I'll see you in like 4 months.
Say it how it is.
Do you do any kind of bridge events? Do you do a holiday thing at all to bridge between the seasons?
I'm working on it. So again, every year we're just trying to expand my capacity and what we can offer. So where I'm sitting in right now, this is where the nonprofits and things can work together. So I'm in my nonprofit space. So over the winter time, I'm trying to offer the vendors some opportunities to run some classes, probably do a holiday market. We're trying to run the online market to try and get that dialed in. So really trying to keep the brand alive during the wintertime and keep these vendors, some revenue going and their optics still with the community. So we're trying to work on that for sure to add on this year.
And this is a full-time gig for you now, right? Between Urban Symbiosis and Rebel Marketplace, you don't have a day job anymore. Are you still in the military?
No, as of last year. So yeah, I got out in what year is this? 2020.
It's a blur.
Yeah. 2023. So I got out in January of 2022 and just struggled on entrepreneurship all last year. And then I just put myself on salary in March of this year. So as far as a traditional 9 to 5, thank the Lord, I do not have one as of now, but I'm still aware that it's chasing me. So this is what I'm doing full time, running the market, farming, running my nonprofit is kind of all of my jobs at this point.
Yeah, good for you. I mean, a lot of different things going on, but obviously all under that one umbrella of good food and helping people stay stable and feeding your kids, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Great. Anything we didn't ask you, James, that we should have?
Other than how are you guys doing?
That's a nice question. We're doing pretty good.
Nice.
We're just getting into heavy duty conference planning for next March. In fact, I will send you the request for proposal. It sounds like you might be a fun speaker to have with us in San Diego in March. So we're doing that. Bridget's actually taken over kind of the woman on the street role, and she's doing more of the farmers markets that we operate in San Diego. We've got a brand new market and kind of a different neighborhood south of us that we're working on. And lots going on. We're good. Overall, we're good.
Keep him busy.
I like that.
That's good.
Hey, well, thanks for being with us today. It's really been a pleasure to hear about all the projects you've got going on and the good work you're doing, and keep it up. Urban farming is absolutely, I think, the answer to our future as those older farmers retire and the developers move in on the land. Getting those gardens and those fruits and vegetables grown in the city is where it's at.
Yep. Well, thanks for having me, and I appreciate this opportunity and the platform to speak my stuff on.
Great.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon, hopefully. Thanks, James.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Tent Talk today, and big thanks to the Kitchen Door for helping food makers find the right licensed commissary kitchens to support their farmers market businesses, and for supporting Tent Talk, the farmers market podcast. Get cooking by clicking the Kitchen Door logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com.
Please leave us a review on your podcast app, YouTube, or wherever you access this podcast, and tell us how you're enjoying Tent Talk. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss the next episode. Connect with fellow farmers market folks in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community. Follow us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros, and find online education and other resources on our website at farmersmarketpros.com. Don't forget to sign up for our email newsletter while you're there. Tent Talk is brought to you by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was produced by Haley Pascalades. Original music by David Mead. Join us next week for another great episode.